Mic check, mic check. 1 2 1 2. Great morning, great morning. Let me just double check, make sure we're all good on all the platforms. You know how we get down Monday through Friday. Facebook, YouTube, and
let me just double check.
We're good.
Sure
we're good.
All good on.
We're good on Facebook. What you guys just heard was me hearing it from my phone on Facebook. So let me just check LinkedIn real quick. LinkedIn, and then I'll check YouTube to make sure we're all good. Where we at? LinkedIn, what's happening? LinkedIn is good.
My phone on
that was LinkedIn if you're hearing it. It's LinkedIn if you're hearing that again. My apologies, by the way, if you are tired of or don't like the whole intro thing. It's just when I first started doing these, there was a point where I did a whole show and I realized it didn't record until after. So since then, I'm kind of paranoid and make sure that everything is everything on all the platforms. So you just got to bear with me for a little bit. It's not going to take too long. And YouTube, we're all good. All right, here we go. Let's get it. Good morning. Great morning to you folks. Good to see you all. Let me just introduce myself to anybody that may be new to my world. My name is Aswan Crookshank. I am your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time published author and educator, soon to be 6-time published author, by the way. And what I created, what you see with this plus LY, the whole Move Swiftly movement, Move Swiftly, thought everything Move Swift plus LY is a business I've created, a business I started, where it's all about taking the lessons that you learn on the football field, the teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field, and aligning them with businesses and business owners so they have a team, they have a staff, they have a group of employees that moves as efficiently and as progressive and as eager and passionate as a championship youth high school or football team. That's what we do around here in the Move Swiftly world. We pretty much take those lessons and we apply them constantly applying them to businesses as we speak. So today, again, topic that needs to be addressed. As we have been discussing all week, we've been discussing politics. I've been discussing politics and like to look at this time of year, seeing that I have so much football heavy content, and then we're getting into March Madness and the NBA playoffs is coming. In between that time, to talk a little politics. Whenever football and basketball isn't in its highest of heights, when it's kind of in the mid-season mode, you're always mixing in a little politics, because I grew up in the DMV, grew up in Maryland. So when it comes to basketball, that's what we do. Basketball, I was never good enough to actually play, but I was around the game. So we're about to get into a lot of basketball heavy content as we move forward here, but also seeing that it is Maryland, a lot of politics that go on, a lot of things that you get swiped up in and just twisted up in. You just see how these politicians move. And then myself as a former football player, person that has coached the game, scouted the game, has built my business, has built my ideas and the concept and the principles based off the things I've learned from the game of football, and all of that mixed in is what makes it so very, very much in that world. So before I get too heavy, so we're going to be talking, like I said, we're going to be talking weak leadership and why that is the number one reason that businesses fail. And you are listening to someone that has been around the block with this. All right, I'm going to get into it as we go. I'm working on not getting started too early because I got to get through a few announcements and I want to get through a few current events before I actually get started on the topic. But I want to just frame it a little bit for you guys to understand that we are going to be discussing something that needs to be addressed whenever we're talking politics, whether it is politics, whether it is basketball, whether it is football, whether it's business in general. We have got to discuss, and you really got to weed out weak leadership, regardless of what lens you are listening to this from. You could be listening to this from the lens of the employee. You could be listening to this from the lens of the parent. You could be listening to this from the lens of the maybe the middle manager or whatever it is. The end of the day, leadership is an internal battle. Leadership is something that you have to work on from the inside out. And if it's weak leadership, the business will fail. That is a guarantee. All right. We're going to discuss that in a second here, regardless of the business model, by the way. But we're going to discuss that in a second. Let me get through some announcements, and I'm going to get into some current news, current events. One current event in particular, current events, plural. And then we'll get into the topic. First and foremost, all right. Business owners. Oh, no, excuse me, not business owners yet, but West Palm Beach. If you are in the West Palm Beach area and you are interested in free boxing lessons, I put those on every 2 weeks. Just hit that QR code that you see on the screen there. If you're watching this via video, if you're not, just go to free guide. No, not free guide. It's free boxing. It's boxinglessons.makeitmove.com. Yeah, freeboxing.makeitmove.com. Go there, and then you'll see all the information to sign up. Next thing, now it's for you business owners. If you are having an issue, and you are, just to let you know, but if you're not having it now, you definitely will. If and when you have the issue of constantly replacing employees and constantly dealing with turnover, you need to go to freeguide.makeitmove.com. That's freeguide.makeitmove.com. What I created was a 10-step process, 10 bullet points in which you can use right now that'll lead to a more efficient workplace, a workplace that has some efficiency, a workplace that has some structure, a workplace in which everybody is walking into that business and they know their role, they know specifically how they're going to get better that day. You cannot look past today, business owners. Hear me clearly on this one. You cannot look past today and business. All right. You have got to bring in a staff that knows what they need to accomplish that day. Just get it done that day and develop that mindset of getting it done that day and then move forward. Too often do you guys look too far down the line, and the problems that you need to be clearing up right now are not solved yet, and you're wondering why your business isn't moving forward. All right. And finally, Patreon. Tap into the Patreon, patreon.com/as144. It's our membership. It's basically our membership here where we get you in regardless of where you are or where you are financially, where you are in profits. Just make sure you tap into the Patreon. We have preseason, regular season, and postseason. If you're interested in that, just let me know and we will get all the information out to you accordingly. All right. So before we start today's topic, and it's ironic, and I'll just kind of explain this to you guys now. Whenever I discuss a current event in some way, shape, form, or fashion, it's kind of in alignment with the overall topic. And the overall topic today is weak leadership and why so many businesses fail. And the reason that I've got to address what's going on with Shedeur Sanders and this NFL draft and all this nonsense that is going on is because it is showing, it's displaying a level of weak leadership. It really is. It's a real problem that we have in the game of football now, which is why I've been on record saying it over and over and over and over again. In fact, I'll do it with you guys. I'll do it with you guys right now. I'm going to Google my name and Google the Google feeder system. All right. Just for some receipts here. Do you see how much I put out there? Okay. Do you see how much I have put out there about a feeder system? Just look at it. Feeder system. There's so much talk. I've done so much. Put so much out there in terms of a feeder system, and what's going on with Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward and all the talking that's going on with the NFL draft is a prime reason as to why we've got to go to a feeder system in the National Football League. Here, look at the thumbnail. So this was the thumbnail from this morning where all day yesterday I had to hear about some anonymous quarterback some anonymous quarterback coach saying such and such about Shedeur Sanders and who's going to go number one and all this other nonsense. Look at the kind of headlines I'm reading right now. Why not every team give Shedeur Sanders a first-round draft grade? This is Yahoo Sports, New York Times, New York Post, NBC. What Shedeur Sanders said about that rub some of all of this talking, man, just talking, nothing but a bunch of talk. And all of this going on shows an example of weak leadership. So I'm going to let today's move swiftly because I gave a whole take on this earlier this morning. I want you guys to listen to it. And as I break down what I said this morning, we're going to transition into how this concept and how this problem, how this issue of weak leadership is going to lead to the death of businesses. Because when you have weak leadership, ultimately what starts happening is you have too much turnover, and with too much turnover, it is incredible. It's damn near impossible to get everybody really aligning on a vision, aligning on the same vision so you can move forward with it. And it really just started with weak leadership. So let me just let this play. I'm gonna let this play, and then we'll get into the topic. We'll get into more of what the topic is all about today.
Let's get it. As one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking in for a daily Move Swiftly thought, giving you a perspective on teamwork you will not get anywhere else. Nice, refreshing 6 miles today. Refreshing 6 miles. Some abs. Nice cooler day. Woke up a little earlier. Got it done. Got it out the way. Let's get into some of these comments. Now, today's Move Swiftly thought, I'm not talking about Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward per se. I'm talking about the fact that people are talking about them, all right? And I've been on record year after year after year. This time of year, March Madness, NFL Combine, Pro Days coming up, Pro Days getting scheduled, and we got all of this talking. We have all of this talking about the NFL draft and the projections, where this one's going to go. Nowadays, it seems like year in and year out, it becomes more and more amplified. There's more people chiming in, saying this. I mean, I think after all the ESPN layoffs, when you got people who were formerly on the network that used to give their 2 cents, now they have their own platforms or they have their own shows, whatever it is they're doing. They got to give their opinion, and they got to interview this one, who this one knew, and that one knew, and this comes out and that comes out. All of this bullshit, all right? It's just too much. It's too much talking, all right? Let me just tell you, now this isn't an attack on Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, but neither one of those two players, as of right now, should we even be talking so much about, because they have done nothing at the professional level. Yes, they both have unbelievable potential. They both have unbelievable talent. But what I had to see, and I'm happy to say, and this is where I've seen the growth in myself personally. I'm happy to say I listened to absolutely 0 segments, 0 takes on. So apparently what happened was I saw that Shedeur and Cam Ward were at the Combine, but for some reason they didn't compete in the Combine, which, again, in my opinion, personally doesn't make any sense, but totally understand if their team, their management team, or their trainers, their advisors, or they got some indication as to not compete, that's their decision. I don't see why they're even going to go if they were going to compete. That didn't make much sense to me at all, but that's another conversation for another day. But apparently what happened was there was some coach who said Shedeur was brash or too braggadocious or just too cocky, something like that. Some sort of person who didn't put his name behind it or whatever it was. So who knows who got said? It could have literally just been a conversation that might have been an offhand comment by a quarterback coach, and this one got said. And who knows if it was even being said in a negative way? Who even knows if it was being said in a way that was painting Shedeur in a negative light? Who knows if it was said in a way that made it so, Shedeur's stock rises and they like his personality? Who knows? And that's the problem. Nobody does, but it seems that everybody has a damn comment about it. I mean, you'll see the thumbnail on this. It's a whole news cycle. Every segment, everything you see. Oh, some quarterback coach says Shedeur is too brash and too cocky, and his stock is falling, and everybody's giving their opinion on what this is going to happen, what that's going to happen, and all of that over the long haul. I'm just telling you right now, over the long haul, all of that is going to completely ruin the game if we do not, and I'm saying it over and over and over again. If we do not go to a feeder system, allow these guys who are coming out of college to go compete at the pro level before we move them up to these NFL teams, because there's just too much talking, man. The game of football is not played through talking. The game of football is not played through tongues. The game of football is being played on the damn field when you buckle up your chin strap and you play the damn game. It's not played in a booth. It's not played on a microphone. It's not played in some studio somewhere. So I don't get how so many people get to give their opinion and give their 2 cents on something when they're not actually playing. Yes, I get that a lot of these guys are former players and they did things a certain way when they played, but this is not the same game. It's a brand new game. Okay, the athletes are just better. So everyone constantly talking about Shador and Cam Ward and who's going to go number one and all that kind of stuff. All of that stuff just hurts the game. Yes. We got to stop it. I'm telling you, we just have got to stop the madness, please. And that's today's Move Swiftly Thought. Just too much talking, all right, in my opinion. And hopefully this will be the last time I address this NFL draft nonsense. We can get to it and, the whole thing is over. And we can get back to some real football. In fact, I'll probably be going to be.
All right, so that's it. All right, and that's really the issue, is that when you have decided, and I think it all started, like I said, it all started with the advancements of social media and the popularity of debate television. I think actually there was some comment got said about how debate television has ruined sports TV, which is true. There's some truth to that, and there's some parts of it that might have been taken out of context, because debate television isn't necessarily bad. Giving your opinion on TV isn't necessarily bad if you're talking sports. If you're talking about sports, you got your team, you got that team, somebody won the game, and whoever's team lost, that team lost, and they got to eat crow, and they got to analyze it, break it down, and they're argumentative, they're debating in a certain way, but they're debating based on something that has actually happened on the field. You have your guy or whatever it is. What we're seeing here with the NFL draft, and what we continue to see over and every single year, it's happening because now people are doing stuff just for likes. It's between social media and between fantasy football and the whole this thing where everyone feels like they need to give their 2 cents. And then also, because of all these things happen, ESPN laid off a ton of people, right? ESPN laid off a ton of people, and all of these people that ESPN used to bring on to give their 2 cents and give segments about this, now they've jumped on other networks. Now they have their own podcast, they have their own thing, and now a buzz gets created, and everything makes news, and all sorts of stuff that is just not going to be beneficial to the game, because there's nobody in charge at this point. All right. And I said it, I will stand on it, I will continue to stand on it, is that Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, absolutely unbelievable talents. I've seen them both. I actually saw Cam Ward play in the bowl game that first half, and he is absolutely on point. Cool, calm, collective. He's putting balls on the money. He doesn't get frazzled in the pocket. He knows when to pull it down. The half that I saw of him live, 1,000% a great play. Same thing with Shador. There's some absolutely incredible throws that he made when he was at Colorado. Granted, his competition wasn't as strong, but he easily showed that he has the arm talent, the ability to play in the National Football League. Okay, that should be the end of the conversation. That should be that. I don't get why there needs to be segments. There needs to be entire segments about what a quarterback coach said or what that didn't said, and how. Nobody knows the context in which it was said, so it shouldn't be okay to be giving your thoughts on something that you weren't there for, because of something you experienced, because of something you played through. It is a completely different situation, and it's hurting the game, and it's showing why a lot of people are turned off by the NFL game. I've spoken to tons of people, including myself. I even posed that question one week, where the college game is just better because of the lack of this NFL draft. This NFL draft is just wrong. They have turned something that was meant to be really kind of private, really secluded, really just between their franchise and somebody comment. What up? So they've turned something that was meant to be between a coach, a GM, and an owner, and they've turned it into a media circus. They turned it into a circus. So now, when you have a player, let's throw out a couple of names. I mean, I could probably throw out 50 or 60 names of players that have been drafted that have been total busts. That ruins the NFL product. Because if you put this out there in the media, like we'll even give an example. I'll even put hate to put his name out there, but it was because I'm in South Florida. There was a guy named Josh Rosen, I think it was Josh Rosen, who initially got drafted in the first round by the Cardinals, and then he ended up in Miami, and was a total bust, absolute total bust. All right, this was before they got Tua. And when you continuously do that, ultimately the product gets ruined. So that's what I have to say about that. And the reason I'm actually talking about that is because when you bring up the discussion of weak leadership and why they fail, you can look at my life at this point. All right, I just turned 36 this year, and there's been a ton of situations that I've been a part of in which the person who was asked to do the hiring, all right, the person who was asked to do the hiring was not ready, was not in a position where they needed to be hiring anybody. All right, they needed to figure out what they were doing with their life. They needed to figure out how they were going to get established before they can actually get in a position to tell someone or to actually be an evaluator on if someone's going to be good enough to do a certain job. Now, I come from the athletics world. I come from the, athletics, fitness, education. Those are my lanes. That's where I've learned a lot of my business, and I've learned a lot of the work I do, where I've gained a lot of my experience. And I could talk to you about a ton of different examples of weak leadership when we're talking about fitness, but for the sake of time and for the sake of this particular live stream, I'm going to offer up two. I'm going to just give you two examples. I'm going to compare and contrast. We'll say it like this. I'll compare and contrast two similar business models. There's two different companies that I actually worked for, and one's in business as we speak, and the other one is not in business as we speak. However, they're two very similar business models. All right. So two business models, one is going to be OrangeTheory Fitness, and the other one is going to be 9 Round. So I'll start with OrangeTheory Fitness. I'll walk you through kind of the concept of OrangeTheory Fitness, and then I will allow the founder, Ellen, her name is Ellen Latham. Yeah, that's it. Ellen Latham. I'll have a clip there, and I'll play that clip for you guys so you guys understand the whole scope of how OrangeTheory Fitness actually works. And then after OrangeTheory Fitness, after I explain that, that's the business that's still open, by the way. And then I'll talk to you about 9 Round Kickboxing and Fitness, which is the franchise isn't shut down, but the gym in which I worked at, the place that I was a part of, that gym is no longer in business. They're permanently closed. However, the actual 9 Round franchise is still up and running. It's still thriving. I believe it's still thriving. But the issue is, and the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because it's going to properly illustrate to you guys how and why one business is still up and running and the other one is not. All right. So I'll start with OrangeTheory Fitness. And I first heard of OrangeTheory when I still lived in Maryland. And I was really for about 3 or 4 months before I moved to Florida, I stayed in Maryland because I made a commitment to a specific high school football team that I was going to coach throughout that entire year. And I already made that commitment. So I decided, all right, you know what, instead of me just leaving, I'm going to wait till the end of the football season and then, pack it up and just go to Florida and start a brand new life. Cause I wasn't happy in Maryland. With a lot of the things that was going on the personal side and the things that I was seeing within my own family. Again, another conversation for another day. So I was looking for places to work per se, but I was also looking at places that were really popular in Florida, because Florida was where I wanted to be. And OrangeTheory Fitness was one of those studios. It was like a fitness franchise that I didn't know much about, and because I was in Maryland. However, the few that were involved in Maryland, the few OrangeTheory Fitnesses that were in Maryland, I had known that Florida was the big spot. Florida was the place in which you had a ton of OrangeTheory Fitness studios. In fact, when I first took a class at OrangeTheory, they told me, yeah, it's like a Starbucks out there. Like, you know, if you talk about Florida, it's like a Starbucks, right? So when I finally got to Florida, I didn't have a job offer at all. Just didn't have anywhere to stay. Just started, right? I knew the type of places that were going to hire me on the spot. And, it was anything fitness sales related and all that. So luckily fortunately, I should say, I found an apartment that was right there in St. Petersburg, Florida. And it wasn't too far from an OrangeTheory Fitness that was located not too far from where I lived in St. Petersburg. And fortunately, they were looking for sales associates, and boom, got hired. And boom, once I got the actual job offer, my life officially started in Florida, right? Officially started, say, let's go. And then this is OrangeTheory too. So, especially when it comes to OrangeTheory, when it comes to the women that work at OrangeTheory, it's like, okay, now we could work something out. We can work something out. But what I want to tell you guys, here's what I want to explain to you guys, all jokes aside. When I did my interview for OrangeTheory, there was now again, I've been around the block at this point. I'd seen a lot of gym franchises go up, and I've done a lot of work with the fitness industry, scouting, athletics and all that. I've been around the block, like I said, right? So it really wasn't an interview as much it was more of like a conversation, right? It was a conversation. The people that were interviewing me, one was a former LA Fitness guy, came to OrangeTheory, and the other one was a former member, and she was a fitness junkie, fitness enthusiast herself. They both used the place. It was, again, this is fitness. People, it's their lifestyle. It's what we do. We work out every single morning. We do what we have to do. It just so happens that we're also working at the gym, but we work out too. We take the classes too, all right? And if you're going to make it in fitness, by the way, if you're not also working out, it's going to be very hard for you to actually maintain over a long period of time. Just letting you know, just a sidebar. But anyway, I posed the question as I was being interviewed. I was saying, okay, well, answer me this, because I was interviewing as a sales associate, and then there was the coaches who was the front of the house who were actually training the people that were coming in. And when it comes to the actual coach, the actual trainer, those are going to be the people that make it so the gym has some stickiness to it, that has some resilience, some retention rates, right? They're going to be looking at retention rates. They're going to be looking at who's canceling, why are they canceling, who's staying, what's going on there. Those are the numbers that they're going to be actually looking at, right? So I asked I guess she was like the sales manager, the person who was going to be hiring me and all that. I asked her, okay, so what happens when a trainer starts to realize, hey, they can go do it on their own, and they can go train people at some local park, train people at their house, when they decide they get their little entrepreneurial bug, like everybody gets in fitness, right? And they're going to go start training people and leave and say, look, I don't need the studio to take a percentage of what I could be making from these clients. They could pay me directly, right? And she explained to me, she goes, they sign a non-compete. They sign a non-compete. The coaches, the people that are training at OrangeTheory are signing a non-compete, the same way that in LA Fitness, even and I spent some time working at LA Fitness as well, they sign a non-compete if you are caught training folks. If you're caught training folks on the outside or not in the gym, then you can be immediately terminated, right? So that was why they, and as I get further along on my points here, that's why they're still in business to this day, because they have a system that I actually heard, and this is something that came from another friend of mine who I'd known since I had started in the fitness world. It came from a system started by Ellen that was already predetermined. The system started with Ellen's initial work. Ellen's initial studio was called Ellen's Workout Facility or something, like Ellen's Ultimate Studio. It's something in Fort Lauderdale. And then OrangeTheory partnered off of that. They were just doing the branding. And I read the book that she put out and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to let this play. It's like a 4-minute clip here. And then I'm going to talk to you about when I left and went to become a trainer at 9 Round. And that 9 Round, who has a similar business model, again, 9 Round and Orange Theory have a very similar business model, yet the 9 Round I worked at is no longer in business, and the Orange Theory I worked at is still thriving and still doing their thing. So I'll let it play.
Oh, Chris.
Hey, Ellen.
Hey, Chris. Welcome to OrangeTheory Fitness.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
So everything is orange.
We are very orange.
Why?
Orange means energy. We need to get your heart rate into the orange zone for at least 12 minutes today.
What was your biggest fear when you started this company?
Probably that people wouldn't understand how intense the science is of it, which was so important to me as a physiologist.
You started Orange Theory because you were fired from your job.
I was.
Why did you get fired?
I had been there for a while, and they didn't want to pay me what I was getting paid. I had built up to that point.
Your salary was so high that they just cut you loose.
And, you know, I started literally training people out of my home. I was a single parent with a 9-year-old son.
If you hadn't been fired, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
I'd probably be working, managing spas, developing fitness programs for someone else.
How does that sound to you?
Not terrific.
Not terrific. So you got fired from your job. Have you ever had to fire somebody?
Have I ever had to fire anyone? I've had to recommend that maybe it's not a really good fit. And is that a nice way of saying it?
That's how you go about firing someone.
You know?
What is the worst trait in an employee?
Well, I think commitment and dedication, passion.
Those
You have to have those things.
Those
Well,
are the
listen,
good traits.
I think, but if you don't have those, if you don't have those, are you really ever going to be able to give 110%?
I see.
I kind of want 110%.
Yeah. You started Orange Theory from your house. And then how many studios are there now?
We have 900 studios open.
900 studios.
We've sold about a total of 1,300 studios. We're in 16 countries, which really excites me.
Word on the street is that your fiance is a franchisee.
He does own a studio in Florida.
How did he go from franchisee to fiance?
It was the other way around.
Oh.
We started as fiance and went to franchise.
And you said, if you're going to marry me,
It's my first
you
time
had
hearing
better own an Orange Theory.
3, 2, 1, and let's wrap the hand. Ooh, good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're going to go over to the weight room.
Orange Zone.
Good work.
A big part of your story was starting this as a single mom. How did you manage that?
My sister helped me out a lot. I had a lot of family members that helped me out a lot. But I think additionally, what you need to do is keep focusing on what's right in your life, not what's wrong. And then you get less discouraged.
Wow. How much sleep were you getting then in those early days of Orange
Now
Theory?
listen, not a lot. Your brain is going all night long. So your energy, your eating, your exercise has to be spot on for you to be able to handle all of that.
You grew extremely fast. There are franchises that have grown really fast and then they collapse because they grew too fast. They start closing down stores. Do you imagine that there's the risk of that happening to you?
Unless the human body changes how it responds to exercise, everything we've got in this workout is going to last your lifetime.
So with this rapid growth, what was your revenue last year?
Well, by the end of 2018, we should be close to $1 billion.
And how much money were you making when you first started this out of your house?
Let's say about 30,000.
30,000 a year?
30,000.
And now at the end of this year, you're going to make close to $1 billion.
The company, correct.
The company. Jeez.
And 3, 2, and 1. We did it. We did it. Chris, you really did a great job today. You have become orangified.
Thank you for letting me brain.
Absolutely.
And maybe I'll see what else.
I hope so. Take care.
All right, so yeah, I know that was a long. I was lost for a second there because you gotta understand, I didn't know anybody in Florida. I was brand new to the area. I moved out here, just taking a huge risk, and that was the first job I had. So that was the kind of inspiration I was able to get every day. Every morning I would show up 4:30 a.m., leave at like 1, and I would have to get sales and go out and market, go out and meet people. I would do table setups, man. And it's funny seeing people, pulling that rower, because I remember there was the person that I was speaking of before that actually brought me in, that was my hiring manager, one that hired me. We had an intense conversation that was not planned. It wasn't planned. I think it was like a sale coming, a price presentation coming up. A newcomer coming, intro. That's what they used to call it. Had an intro session coming up where the person was going to be trying the class for the first time, and I had to present the prices. And I was asking her to do some role play or whatever, to say, I want to make sure I want to nail down my delivery. And she was like, rowers, this, that, and then she had told me, here was the question. I'm gonna move on. First, let me just get this out real quick. So she goes, do you know the difference between the OrangeTheory rowers and a rower that you get at LA Fitness or whatever it is? She goes, the water in the actual rower, so it makes them feel like they're actually in the river pulling. Like, that's the difference. And that's kind of the thing that makes OrangeTheory unique. The science behind it, the technology behind it, all of that stuff makes it so the system is just like this table right here. It's a solid system. It's a solid system that people can buy into, as she has just alluded to or explained. Her own fiance became a franchisee after they got together, because the system is so solid. It's almost like buying into a McDonald's, regardless of where you are in the world. All right. The McDonald's, you go and you order a number 2 from McDonald's, it's going to be the same food every single time. Now, if you go into a McDonald's, the interior design of it is going to change. The design of the layout of the building and all that kind of stuff is going to actually change. But what you actually order, the actual product, is going to be the same. That is what they have at OrangeTheory. Okay, that is the reason why they are constantly in business. And as she just said, they're doing close to $1 billion in sales, with a B, $1 billion in sales with a B, with a B. And the issue with OrangeTheory, and this is someone, again, as a former employee there, is when you have your set of members, when you have your group of members, it's hard to actually grow that membership base. So the next option is to, this is a good problem to have. The option is to just build another studio, because the studio isn't going to cost that much to build. The expenses are coming within the actual system, within the actual products. The treadmill's got to be on point. The rowers obviously got to be on point. The weight room and all that stuff got to be on point. That's where the actual expenses are. So they have so much that goes in on the back end before they actually open up. In fact, as I left St. Petersburg, they were building a new OrangeTheory. So I had an opportunity to see how the new ones are built and what they have to do and all that. And the person who actually, the franchisee, the person that owned the group of OrangeTheory Fitnesses that I was a part of, we went and visited the location, and he basically ran down how much people are making in this area, how much people are making there. There's a Publix right, there's a grocery store right there, there's another gym right there. He had it all set up to where the location is where all the traffic was. So regardless of who comes in and out of the business as an actual employee, the leadership in the system is already on point, because there's a process that they go through in order to actually get the studio open. All right. So that's number one. I'm explaining all that to you because right after that, I left OrangeTheory, and the reason I actually left OrangeTheory is to move to South Florida, because the Dolphins had offered me a position. It was only part-time at the time, but because it was only part-time when I took the position with the Dolphins, I had to find another like gym to work at, to where I was able to supplement both the incomes and create, be able to eat and all that, pay bills and all that kind of stuff. And the gym that I found that I actually would have preferred was 9 Round. Right, 9 Round Kickboxing and Fitness, because one of the things about me is I always wanted to learn, especially when I was through playing, is I wanted to learn how to teach people to box. I wanted to learn that hand-eye coordination, that jab, cross, uppercut, hook, cross, jab, jab, cross. There was such a synergy between the, boxing, learning to box and adding that skill set to what it is I do, because I saw that crossover from being able to teach somebody how to throw a jab, a hook, a cross, teach somebody the footwork and all that, and being able to help the next linebacker, help the next tight end, right? Help the next fullback, lineman, receivers getting off their releases, cornerbacks being able to punch and all that. I saw the synergy. So if I was and that's always been my thing. It's always been my thing, especially even like right after I graduated from college as a scout. I've always saw that connection to where, how can I connect what goes on in the fitness world and what goes on in the athletics world? And I've always seen boxing as that thing. That's where, actually, I'll show you guys. That's where this book came from, right? Make Your Move. That's where this book, that was the core of this book, to where I've always saw that as the connective tissue, because if you look at the movements and how people, swim, move, uppercut, hook, all of that stuff is just incredible synergy. So I was more excited to work at this particular 9-round because I had finally gotten a job with a professional football team. I had gotten a job with the Miami Dolphins, and I was like, I bet, let me go. If I got that background of fitness, you go find a fitness studio or a gym in which I can continue to develop my skill set, and at some point be able to cross that bridge to create some sort of crossover, which is what this was all about, right? So here we go. We're getting to the title now, getting to why weak leadership failed, or why weak leadership is the number one reason why businesses fail. Because this particular 9-round, actually, before I get into why this particular 9-round failed, I don't want it to sound like I'm bashing the company. All right, because I'm not. I actually love the company very much. I actually still have a great deal of love for the founder of the company, Shannon, and his wife, Heather Hudson. I still keep up with them, on social media and all that kind of stuff. I love the overall company, the concept of 9-round. It just so happened that the facility that I worked at, the 9-round that I worked at, that 9-round is no longer in business because this particular owner was doing things his way and was not following an actual system that was like Orange Theory, and making it so, hey, you got to have some standards, right? You got to have some standards, and you got to develop a great deal of principles before you just let anybody in your business. So let me let it play, and then I'm gonna get into what pretty much I'll tell you a couple stories, but pretty much the main reason, the main difference between why Orange Theory is still in business and why this particular 9-round is no longer business. But I'm going to let Shannon talk about the concept and what it's all about first.
First, I'm at a great franchise conference here in Tampa, Florida, so it's nice and warm. The unique thing is that we're both from Greenville, South Carolina. Shannon Hudson is actually the founder and owner of 9-round. So, at one point, I'm actually looking into this brand. It's a great brand. They have several stations, and they teach people, it's a fitness brand. But, I'm not going to take Shannon's thunder. But what our firm does is we meet and get to meet franchise CEOs or franchise development people around the country. So they have a very unique opportunity to meet other CEOs from other companies and speak with Shannon. So, we help you look into options. But Shannon, let me not take your thunder. Tell our audience briefly about 9-rounds. Kind of where it's come from in a very short clip.
Well, good question. 9-rounds is a 30-minute full body kickboxing circuit training workout. It's just a ton of fun. It's like a roller coaster ride. It's fast, it's fun, and it gets results. We have 630 units. We're in 18 countries, and we're looking for great owner-operators and people that want to change people's lives with fitness. And that's what we're looking for.
Well, guys, that's like a very short clip. Shannon himself was in boxing himself. And tell about a little bit about your journey there. Because, it's not just a fitness brand that just popped up overnight. It's a little bit more in depth than that.
Yeah, well, authenticity is at our core. I grew up in martial arts. I've won world titles professionally as a professional kickboxer. I fought in Europe. I fought in Canada. And I wanted to bring real kickboxing training to the average person, but take out the good punches in the face. That's the worst part. So it's just making it about fun and about fitness and relieving stress and being stronger in 30 minutes.
Guys, I deal with a lot of fitness brands. And the challenge is another fitness brand. I don't want to open up another gym. I get that all the time. I hear from candidates, and I don't like it. I mean, it's too many of them out there. Well, like about 9 rounds, so that's been inside one of the facilities before. It's a small, concise space. It's very meaningful. So, Shannon, I don't take that. Tell the audience how the brand has evolved. How many franchises are currently have that sort of
Yeah, you know, we have well over 600 members out here. And, like you said, our units
600, not 20, 600.
I mean, our units are 1,500 square feet. That allows you to be very intimate in the space and really get to know your members and create a community feel. So, it's an amazing brand. My wife works with me, and my brother works with me, and we got a big home office with a lot of people, and we just love what we do.
And I'll pause there because there's a couple of things I want to make sure I'm making the difference, or I'm explaining to you guys in terms of the difference between OrangeTheory and 9 Round. All right. So first of all, the membership experience is everything. All right. When you're talking about an OrangeTheory, most of the time the classes are already filled. And when it comes to new people coming in, they have to be there at a certain time. They got to be there before, maybe 5 or 15 minutes before, to fill out paperwork. And then when it comes to just getting new people in, it's a whole lot more of a challenge versus at a 9 Round. You can show up whenever you want. It's 30 minutes, and it leads to a more convenient process in terms of getting people in. All right. That is actually a huge difference in terms of the actual user experience, and I remember going to a conference. It was actually, like a training for us 9 Round trainers. And I remember Shannon making sure we would use that as a way of getting people from OrangeTheory to 9 Round. He would say, look, I love he actually said this. He goes, I love OrangeTheory because whenever people sign up to OrangeTheory, they find out within the first 2 or 3 months of that, not even if it's that long, that they can never get into a class. It's always a challenge getting there by a certain time. And within that period, if it's soon enough, they'll be members of 9 Round if they use it the right way. But he also said something that was very key in that phrase, which is the intimate setting. All right, the intimate setting, and the fact that you have got to trust the system. You've got to trust the system. And I went to actually it was 2 conferences. One when he came to Fort Lauderdale, and then there was one in Orlando, in which he didn't call out the owners per se because there was a lot of them in there, but he kind of alluded to it as he was talking to a whole room. This is a whole hotel, like a big lobby full of 9 Round owners. And he was pretty much saying, hey, look, guys, I understand you guys want to create your own workouts. I understand you guys want to go and do CrossFit. You want to have a CrossFit bar. You want to have a pull-up bar. You want to do all sorts of things in the fitness world, all sorts of things, right, that come up in the fitness world, whether it's CrossFit, whether it's some other type of workout, and, you're doing this and you're doing that. But there's a certain system and a certain model that needs to be in place when they walk into a 9 Round, and you can't just be thinking about yourself, because when you do that, it creates a horrible situation for the entire company. This is what I mean. This is specifically what I mean when I say weak leadership is the reason businesses fail. It's not just the gym I worked at. It's not just the 9 Round I worked at. I know multiple. Even when I got out here to West Palm Beach, there have been multiple 9 Rounds that have shut down. Multiple. All right. Well, I was actually chatting with a colleague of mine, and we were talking about a 9 Round that was out here in Boynton that I interviewed the owner on my show when I first started my podcast. I interviewed her, and both of her gyms are no longer up. All right. So it's not just an attack on the 9 Round owner that I had to deal with for 4 years. It's more so about, hey, there's owners who decide that they're going to kind of do their own thing and not allow the system. How long the non-compete contract lasts? OT started 40. That's amazing. Yeah, that is true. That is true for sure. But yeah, and I'll address comments at the end. But when it comes to the non-compete, when it comes to actually making sure that the people that you hire are not doing things that are unethical and not going behind your back and taking your clients or taking your members. That is all about leadership, folks. That's all about leadership. And you actually putting your foot down. You actually putting your foot down and saying, you're either going to train them here, and this can transfer over into any business. You're either going to train them here, or you can get the fuck out and go try to build out your own stuff. All right. That right there needs to be said, and it needs to be very clear to people, because if you don't do it, what's going to happen is exactly what happened to the gym that I was working at, where you look up and you're going to lose all your members, because eventually, if you want long-term commitment, the people are signing up because of the trainers. They're signing up because of the actual trainers. They're signing up. They're signing up because the person that they get to see and that kicks their butt every single morning, it's making them better. If we're talking specifically 9-round, these were ladies that were coming in that were dealing with domestic abuse situations. They were dealing with divorces. They're dealing with, just had a baby, all sorts of stuff, and just learning that jab, that cross, that uppercut, that hook, that jab, jab, cross, learning those combinations. All of those things were helping them. They weren't signing up. They weren't coming in every morning because they wanted to see the owner, because they cared about the gym growing. That's the owner's job, right? So I'll give you this story real quick, and then I'll close you guys out. Because when I was at 9-round, there was myself, and there was 2 other trainers that we'll say were qualified. We're good at. We'll say it like this. Myself and then 2 other trainers, I will say, were good enough to train people at their houses. Like, if we wanted to go and build up our own training business on our own, all 3 of us were qualified to do it, because there were times in which we were approached by members, all 3 of us, and I'm not going to put their names out there, but all 3 of us were approached by members to say, hey, you want to train me at a park? You want to, come to my house? Yada, 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 yada. We were all approached at some point by doing that. All right. So one of the trainers actually was like, he wasn't even pretending type of stuff. Like, he wasn't even trying to do it on the low key. He used to have his like Instagram out. Everybody would come in. So the way the 9-round works is they come in and they do their 9 rounds of workout. He's showing them, he's getting people to follow him. He's getting people to book all. He's talking about his actual fitness business while he's at work. The issue with him is that a lot of the members just didn't like his aggressive tone and just how he was in general and stuff like that, because boxing wasn't his thing. His thing was more of a CrossFit type of workout. That was his background, and he was a lot like me in terms of just working at 9-round, because you wanted to develop a skill set that you were gonna be able to apply in other things. Now, the other trainer, he did have a boxing background. He did fight in some amateur things, and the people that were coming into a 9-round expecting to learn how to box, they were gravitating towards him because that's what they're expecting. We're putting boxing gloves on him, all that kind of stuff. Again, I was kind of in the middle of both of them, because my background is in football and, learned CrossFit because I worked at a D1. And then being that I was there, I had to develop as a boxing trainer. So I was kind of seeing both sides of the situation. Here is the issue. All right, here's the issue. I'm going to give it to you because I like to keep these within an hour. The issue is the owner never made it so them 2 signed a non-compete the same way that OrangeTheory did. All right. Remember, if I go back and listen to when I did my interview with OrangeTheory, the lady told me they sign a non-compete. All right. They're not going out and training people unless they're in here. These 2 trainers that I just mentioned, and again, if you had all 3 of us working and we were all kind of on the same in alignment, then the gym would have never closed. There's no reason for that gym to close when you had 3 people that were good enough to go train people outside of this 9-round. But these 2 were going behind the owner's back. One wasn't really going behind the owner's back. They never signed a non-compete. So what happened was the one that was kind of had the CrossFit background, he just left on his own. And he just, when I say he bashed the company, he went in social media. Don't go there. Don't. I mean, he was going. Him and the other trainer were kind of going back and forth, and they were going, back and forth on social media and all that. But then what actually happened is the trainer that had the boxing background, he was literally going to people's houses, training them. And what I found out, what really pissed me off about it, was that the owner knew about it. He knew about it. He knew about it, and he just didn't care. And it's no secret as to why that business is no longer in business. When you have a situation where you pay for a franchise, you pay to be a part of something, you got to think, you can't just think about, okay, I don't want to have this uncomfortable conversation. You got to think, look, there are people who are depending on you to make great decisions, to make proper business decisions. And when you decide that, okay, one other person if we're going to use the example of this 9-round situation, if one other trainer gets to go and train people at their houses, and I'm not gonna say anything about it, then what's to stop everybody else from doing it? What's the point of even being here? If you can just, every single person that comes in now, I can go approach them to go train them outside. In fact, he came, so actually what happened was, and here was the crazy thing about what happened, because when COVID happened, he had shut down the hours on Sundays, right? So I decided, because I was trying to help him out in this situation, I decided Sundays I was going to do a free workout at a local park that was near this particular gym, and I was getting a decent showing. I was obviously getting in front of more people and stuff like that. And he comes at me during the week. I remember him coming at me, and I would post these things on social media, but he came at me on some, that's kind of a conflict of interest if you're going to be training people at the park and all that. Like, what? First of all, it's free, and I've tried to get them in the gym as we go, versus the other trainers who are actually going about training, like they're actually training other people at their houses. That's what I mean. All right. And that's, again, I'm saying this not to necessarily attack that particular individual, because, again, there were other 9-round owners that I met throughout my entire journey there that are no longer in business as well. And I see it over and over and over again when you see the type of leadership and you see the issues that we run into every single day in this country, whether we're talking politics, whether we're talking sports, whether we're talking fitness, athletics, it doesn't matter. The number one reason is because the person up top hasn't aligned themselves with a system and built a brand that they believe in. You got to believe in it, man. You got to believe in it to the point in which you can tell someone, look, love you, love what you do, but it's either you're going to rock with this, or you can get the fuck out. You got to say it as bluntly as that. And if they're with you, they're with you. If they're not, you just got to keep it moving. You got to have enough confidence in your stuff to keep rolling, regardless of who's with you and who's not with you. That's really the bottom line. And that's an internal thing. So when you're talking about leadership, it is not so much about the outside world as much as it's what's going on the inside, what's burning on the inside of you, all right? What you actually have to live through in order to say, look, this is my company, this is my brand. It's just like your family. And this is why I love the example that Ellen shared about. It started with her. It was a fiance first, and then he bought the franchise. So now you know that they're together. You know they got themselves on an alignment in terms of how they run their company. In fact, and I'll just close you out with this comment, because one of my best friends, I'm like one of my day ones, one of my boys, man, Omar. Shout out to Omar. You know, he was on the show. I believe the title of his episode is Business Mentorship. And I was 19 years old when I first worked at my first gym, and Omar was a trainer there. I believe like late 20s, still training to play arena football. So he was, still trying out and stuff like that. And he's got not recently, but since that time, he's gotten out of just being a trainer, and him and his wife make money together because they run their own business. And I remember him saying on the show, because it had been a while since I've spoken to him, and he said on the show, you'd have no idea how great it is to make money with your spouse. If that's how you making your money, just congratulations. And that should be something we all strive for, because you got to love what you do to that point, to where you have that trigger and you have that grind and you have that dog in you, to where whenever someone's attacking your business, it'll feel like they're attacking your family. It's feel like they're taking money off of taking food out of your kids' mouths because of the fact that they don't respect your business enough to actually do what it is they need to be doing. That's what you have to have burning on the inside. So that's all I got for you guys today. And again, if you're a business owner listening to me and you want more of this, you want a group, you want to build something like this within your own culture, within your own company, I need you to head over to makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYaMove.com. What you'll see there is you can shop now. You can join the Patreon community. You can book me to come speak to your organization so I can implement this system. This is a system that you need implemented in your business. Implement this system so you can at least get, it's going to take time, obviously, depending on how bad the situation is, but you need to have a system in place, just like I expressed when it comes to Orange Theory, which is everybody in there got to be rocking with it. They got to be bought in and love it to the point in which they walk into your business as if it's theirs and they love it. All right. It's makeyourmove.com. We'll chat about it. You can book a call, book some time for me to come and speak to you guys. Let's see. All right, hold on. I got some questions here. What's up, dog? A giraffe student athlete. Wonder how long the non-compete contract with us look like to find out. The non-compete. The thing is, so the question is, for anybody that's listening, the question is, I wonder how long the non-compete contract lasts. Look like the founder of Orange Theory started at 40 years old. Now, the thing is and this is actually a really important point, is the founder, as you can see, is doing the workouts herself. All right. The founder clearly believes in the brand. And if you go and you look her up, her name's Ellen. He's talking about Ellen. She's done some great things. She's speaking on many stages. And her story is actually really inspiring. Done some stuff with Tony Robbins. One of the things that they would do actually is they would have it so the managers and the staff would do like Dale Carnegie. They would do stuff that weren't related to fitness. It was all development, all leadership development stuff that they would have them do. So have you ever shared this story? Have you ever shared your story on starting from scratch, picking up a move? Yeah, I've shared it on multiple occasions, but I will definitely point you in the direction of makeyourmove.com to hear more about it, or just hit me up and we'll chat. And any advice you're willing to share about the process of betting on yourself and picking up and relocating the way that you did? Yes, do it now. Do not wait. The longer you wait to do it, and I'm glad you asked that question, the longer you wait to do it, the less likely it's going to happen. The only way, and I tell people this all the time, is that the only way I was able to make the moves that I was able to make is because, first of all, I was young enough to do it, early 20s, well, not early, mid to late 20s, and I wasn't tied down in a relationship. Like, I wasn't shacking up with anyone. I was able to take whatever position was offered, regardless of how much they were offering, because I didn't have responsibilities that some people take on too early in life that they're not really ready to handle. I wasn't doing those things. I was really focused on doing the right thing, when it comes to living my life the right way, so to speak, and not shacking up and not doing stuff that were just not going to be conducive to what it is I was trying to do. And anybody that I was really, long story short, I was really kind of a social misfit. You're going to have to be able to do that at some point, because if you start meshing your life and your goals and what you want to do with other folks, then all of that stuff, all of those dreams, all those things that you say you want to do, day in and day out, it just starts to become, just starts to fade away. So great questions. But I'm here every single Monday through Friday, no later than about 7:30. Usually go for an hour and we chat about that. So everyone out there, again, makeyourmove.com for more information. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.